Welcome to another episode of Cat Daddy. This is your host, Cat Daddy, and I believe we're in episode 11 now. Shout out to D. Ronton for putting my show on Famcast. D. Ron, he's a good friend of mine. Can't go wrong with him. So today's episode, I'll be comparing two different games. As you can tell, I'm a gamer. Different games, you see different games back here. Some of them are easy, kind of like Horrified right there. And some of them are kind of more in a hardcore gaming society as fantasy games, which is you got Gloomhaven up there and you got Descent up there. And I think all this right here from up here is Gloomhaven too. And you see Dungeons and Dragons maps. Or I think this is Animal Adventures right here. You got Dungeons and Dragons maps up there. I don't know if you can tell back there. Right there. Ooh, I got some nasty notes. There's some little miniatures. And I got some magic cards on the top shelf. And it's all over the place. But I want to talk to you about wargaming versus tabletop role playing. Let's go. So I've been playing tabletop role playing for about 30 years, give or take. For you guys that don't know what that is, it's pretty much like Dungeons and Dragons. Well, it is Dungeons and Dragons, but there's other games out there. But I'm just going to stick to Dungeons and Dragons because that's the most common one that most people probably heard of. Don't know what it is, but you heard of it. Now, Dungeons and Dragons is a storytelling game. The story is told by one person, pretty much known as a dungeon master or a game master, guide master, storyteller. Different games out there have different words for that person, but that person tells a story. It creates a story, either from a book or from imagination, puts it on paper, creates villains, creates a conflict and secrets, and it's like a story writer, but you turn into a game. They also create non-playable, NPC, I think, non-playable characters. The characters that help out the actual characters that other people play with. So that's pretty much a dungeon master from Dungeons and Dragons. It also you don't really need miniatures and a castle. You can, but you can go old school and just use a piece of paper, and each person playing their characters will have their stats on a piece of paper. And you pretty much use your imagination. You are gonna need a dice to roll for successes or for critical hits, or because there's limits. If a barbarian's gonna throw his axe and it's gonna come back to him, which it's you go roll for it. You gotta roll a high number, but I've seen it done. I was playing one a few years ago, and I was a ranger, and some goblins came out of the forest, and I started punching them in the face, and I want to punch them so hard that my fist will make the goblin's head explode. I rolled for it, I succeeded, and it happened. It was crazy, but it happened. One of my good friends, Juan, he was a dungeon master, so it allowed me to play a character, which with my imagination, it got pretty crazy, but it was fun. So there's 3 books that most dungeon masters have in their arsenal if they're hardcore dungeon masters. The first one's a player's handbook. This one helps a lot. It's mainly for the characters, for the players that have their own characters, not really for the dungeon master. But it's one of those holy 3 books the holy training books that you have, you gotta have. It helps for the dungeon master to help the other players create their characters. It tells them the class, their race, their powers, their weaknesses. It's a good book. Hello, good book. And I bought it for $50 back in the day. It's still good. It's still the 5th edition, which is the best edition out there. One of the books that helped me out a lot was the Dungeon Master's Guide. This one's for us big boys right here. It's for us to tell the stories and stuff. I think this one's also $50. I don't want to ruin it for you, so I don't want to show you too much. But this is the first out of the 3 books that you should get as a dungeon master. It's really good. Now, the 3rd book, which is really helpful, it's a monster's manual. You can tell I got like a little sticky note somewhere. No, okay. So it's a monster's manual. It helps the dungeon master to create monsters or just get monsters from the stat book. There's some weak monsters like spiders all the way to the mind flayer. Um, so, like the Yeti. See, it tells you the stats and all the what it can and cannot do and the damage and stuff. So this was really good to have. All these 3 books, they cost about $50 each. It's almost half if you're a dungeon master. So I mean, it gets pretty pricey. I know they sell a bundle of these 3 plus a dungeon screen at Amazon for like $90 or $80. I mean, I highly recommend that. I didn't get that. I got these one at a time, so it took me a while to spend 150 plus tax on 3 books, but it's well worth it. It was a good investment. Now, Dungeons and Dragons, I think it's more fun for me as a father, because my wife could pick a character, my 2 20-year-olds could pick a character each, and they don't know how to really read the character sheet, like the stats, their hits, their armor, their defense rolls, their attacks, their stamina, dexterity. But as a dungeon master, I simplify that sheet into like 4, maybe the maximum 6 things that they got to keep track of. And Dungeons and Dragons, they use a 20-sided dice roll system, which when I play with my homeboys, we stick to that. But here at the house, I use this dice mechanics called the Year Zero engine, which each person has 10 6-sided dice, and you roll depending on a certain number that I give you, and you only got to roll 1 6 out of your whole dice, and if you hit that 6, you succeed. It's a very simple mechanics, a dice system, which I recommend people look into. It's called Year Zero engine, or Engine Year Zero. A lot of other tabletop role-playing games like Tales from the Loop, has that mechanism, and it helps a lot if you're starting out as a tabletop role player, especially if you're like a new green fish dungeon master. That helps. So there's rules in those 3 books, but you don't really have to stick to those books at all. I mean, it's just, it helps you run the storyline better. Okay, and I think I ran a total of 3 stories, not just Dungeons and Dragons. I ran a Star Trek one with my son like 4 years ago. I'm getting ready to run a Aliens, Space Marine story, tabletop role playing game with my son. And I actually, with me and my wife and my daughter, we play one called Animal Adventures. Is that you're either a cat or dog, and it has the same powers as you being human, but you're a cat or dog. The villain could be humans or other animals. I highly recommend that. Way better and fun to play than Dungeons and Dragons if you're playing with the wife and kids. It's not easy to play, but it's funner because some people aren't into the dragons and knights and wizards and all that stuff. Orcs, I am, but some people aren't. So you just stick to like a wizard dog and a barbarian cat. It's still connected to the old school D&D mechanics. The same stats, the same roles, but like I say, you can simplify it by playing the Year Zero engine mechanics. Now, that's a tabletop role-playing game. I'm going to go towards wargaming. There's a bunch of them. The one I'm gonna stick to because I play it. It's Warhammer 40K. There's Warhammer 30K, Warhammer Horus of Heresy. There's different ones, but the main basic one, which is still branching out there and telling stories, is Warhammer 40K. I had the luxury to work with this guy named Joaquin. Shout out to you, Joaquin. He was so nice to just give me a bunch of miniatures, and I created like about, I think, 2 armies: the Space Marines, which is the basic one, and the Death Guard, which is a Space Marines that were cursed. Yeah, cursed. Death Guard. So yeah, they were the ones, I think they were cursed. I don't want to ruin for you. It's a pretty good storyline. It starts with the Emperor, the God Holy Emperor. So you want to start reading the novels. They got some really good novels, Warhammer. So anyway, I don't want to get too ahead of myself. So My friend Joaquin about a few years ago gave me two different armies, and I expanded with Death Guard. I mean, they were cool. They were real armor. They were slow moving. They could take hits. So I got. I think that's my biggest army now. He also gave me the Space Marines, which I'm gonna get in detail with the books. I'm gonna show you who the Space Marines are. They're pretty much the vanilla uh, army. Yeah. So, I mean, I had these two armies. I had this army, but I just got this army now. I was able to sell the other ones. I just, they're not my thing. The Space Marines and the Death Guard's not really my thing anymore. I'm, um, I'm explaining to you in detail in a little bit. But the way you play is each person has an army. They're measured by points. 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 points army. It's just, it helps have the table balance between two different armies. So one army doesn't obliterate the other army within 2 rounds, which I've seen it happen within 3 rounds. I think the games that we play is pretty much 3 rounds. No, I'm sorry, it's 5 rounds. You may think, damn, that's a quick game. It really isn't, just because there's a lot of movement on the table, and there's different steps per round. So one round could last half an hour. It could. I've seen it last for about an hour. So I mean, it was like an 8-hour game within 5 rounds. But I think it was like 4 people playing with one army, with one different army each. It was 4 armies on a big game table, and I think they were playing with like 2,000 points. So I wasn't playing. I never had that many miniatures or army that big. A death card, my death card right now could probably be 500. I know my Space Marines were definitely about 800, but uh, it gets kind of crazy, and it also gets kind of expensive. Those miniatures are really expensive. It's not like the Dungeons and Dragons or the tabletop ones that they're $20 for like 10 of them. No, these bad boys, if you buy a box of 3, they might run you up to like $25, $35 for like 5 miniatures, and they come disassembled. They come like in a little flat tray that you gotta cut it, prime it, glue them, paint them, attach them to the base. I mean, for being really expensive, it's not really worth buying the miniatures if you're not gonna be a hardcore gamer. Now, my friend Joaquin did mention this thing. He kept telling me over and over and over that wargaming, especially Warhammer 40K, it's like plastic crack because it's expensive and it's addictive, and it is pretty addictive. Luckily for me, I'm not being around the bush, and I'm not trying to get the company to go out of business, because Warhammer 40K, within 10 years, I think they brought their sales 800% up within 10 years. So, I mean, good for them. I'm not trying to mess with them, but what I do is either buy the miniatures used, assembled. I don't really care if they're painted or not. I prefer them not painted, but if they're painted, it's cool, and you'll buy it half for the price that the new box that's unassembled miniatures will come. So you could do that. Another way that I like to do is go to Etsy. They sell proxies. I know if you go to like a hardcore game store and play Warhammer, you can't do it. They're illegal. I mean, just because I guess people spend $1,000 on making an army, and they kind of get booty hurt when I show my army that costs 80% less, because you can buy about 30 miniatures, certain ones on Etsy for like $20. That's a steal. Versus you buy 30 of them on with Warhammer 40K brand. I don't want to mention the company that makes them, but it'll bring you up to about $80, or maybe like over $100. So I mean, I'm sorry, I got a wife and kids, I got a mortgage, I got to spend more money on these games back here. I'm gonna buy my proxies, and I got some good friends that they're hardcore Warhammer gamers, and they've been playing, and they're pros. They've been playing for over a decade, maybe 2 decades, and they're pros, and they allow me to play with my army, with my proxy army. It's cool. It's well worth it. It's on Etsy. You got to look online on Etsy and actually know what you're looking for, because they're not gonna put Warhammer 40K proxies on Etsy. But once you start knowing your stuff, you know where to look, and I think you'll be okay. But the way you play war games, the Warhammer especially, I play some other ones. I play the Battlestar Galactica. You see these bad boys right here? Right here? All this right here? That's Battlestar, baby. But the way you play Warhammer 40K, which is 4,000, It's by setting your armies a certain place around the table, and you have stats. I mean, you can definitely have stats. They're way crazier. Let me see. Let me find your stats over here. See, each this is a tanks and helicopters, but let's go see right here. See, there's so many stats. There's so many stats per miniature. Now, what I like about the miniatures is once you're making them, you glue them together, you get to attach a flare, a rocket launcher, a laser gun, a pistol, different miniatures, and that's what the stat's gonna be. It's not like the D&D toy. It's you can buy a generic miniature for like $3, and they say, "Oh, that's my wizard." I mean, you could do that for the Warhammer, but most people get kind of booty hurt saying, "No, where's the hand cannon? You don't have a hand cannon. You got a pistol, so you got to stick with the pistol." So it's more uptight, unless you're playing with good people like my friend Joaquin, which I'm giving him another shout out. Joaquin, it's dope. It's really cool. It's real fun once you get to run your Warhammer army with friends. I wouldn't suggest going to the tournaments out there in the game stores just because they get really crazy and they're real anal about how you run your army, even how you paint them. Now, there's certain paints that are advertised that go with your certain army type. I don't do that. I have my own paints. I don't see why I should buy a different green when I have like 4 different greens in my house. It's just it's how you keep your company or how you choose your friends, I guess, in the tabletop and the war game community. But for the most part, I've been having good experience on both games. Each army has their own codex book. This book is the Space Marines. Now, the Space Marines, they're like the fluff army. They have so many different Space Marines. This was the one I had. I mean, there's a lot of dudes that are blue, but I mean, there's salamanders, which are, I mean, I think they were the red ones. There's white knights, wolves, space wolves, but they're pretty much following the same codex because they're Space Marines. Now, this is Death Guard. It's a thinner book. You can tell it's thinner than this one. You see? This one's just the people say it's like a sub race. It's just Death Guard. Way funner to play. The miniatures are amazing too. I mean, I have some. I don't want to take them out because then I got to put them back in storage. Too much work. But it's fun. You still got to buy the books. It's just depends what you want to play. I mean, as a married guy, father, I don't really go out as much. And this is my house. I got a game room over here. I got a table, game table, which my laptop's on. I see no reason why I can't just tell the family, hey, let's go play a role-playing game. Here's a sheet of each character. You can do whatever you want, so long the dice rolls allows you to, and let me tell you the story. Versus wargaming, which my son has played with me before, some Battlestar Galactica and some, I think he played once Warhammer. I bought like the smart introduction box. It was really cool, but it's not as easy to learn as the D&D, just because the Dungeon Master takes a lot of the rules and the pressure of running the game and just lets the players have fun. So I'm about to run the Goonies, which you see up here, right here, the 2 boxes. I'm going to run the Goonies tabletop role-playing game. I told my good friend Ryan from the other show I do, A4, that if he wants to come over and be part of it, he can bring his kids over. I'm sure the kids are going to have fun. I know both of my kids and my wife are down for it, so it's going to be, I may be hosting the tabletop game of max 6 people, the maximum 6 people, and it should be fun. Minimum is going to be like 2 people, but maximum is like 6. So it should be a fun game. That's the Goonies Never Say Die tabletop role-playing game. But that's it. I love both games. I like Warhammer 40K, and I like Dungeons and Dragons, Animal Adventures, the Goonies Never Say Die, Aliens tabletop role-playing game. If I had to pick one, I would pick tabletop role-playing game. Just because it's easier for me to run. I mean, you can run it by scenes, or you could do a one-shot story It's just easier. It's easier now that I'm a grown, getting older, and I got the experience now. Wargaming is awesome too. It's just I kind of like to say wargaming is for the single guys versus tabletop role playing for the married guys or dating guys. I know a lot of friends of mine that invite their girlfriends over for date night, and they run a one shot story, a D&D story my friend, my homeboy being a D&D master, and the girlfriend running her character. I mean, there's so many varieties out there. So wargaming, but it's just pretty much the same thing with wargaming. Like, oh, attack, 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 first, and defense, and then I attack, 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 and then the other guy defense. And most of the time, wargaming, there's a lot of rules that you can't have proxies. I don't get that. I mean, if you're in a budget, you shouldn't be a judge because you're in a budget. I mean, it's hard. It is hard. But that's it, guys. I mean, it is what it is. If you got any questions on either side of those game systems or the games categories, just let me know. I'm downsizing my Warhammer collection. Like I said, I sold my Space Marines online. I got my Death Guard army online on OfferUp. I mean, just go over there, put Death Guard army, Warhammer Death Guard army, and you see it. If you want to haggle me with the price, I mean, I'll budge. I just want somebody else to experience Warhammer and play, especially with Death Guard. I spent a lot of good time and effort painting them. You see pictures on them online. That's an OfferUp on Warhammer 40K Death Guard army. Don't be shy. Leave me a message and leave me comments and stuff. As of right now, I'm trying to build my Imperial Guard army from Warhammer. They're the cheapest ones because nobody really wants to play. There's just humans. It's like the military. It's one, the Space Marines are the good guys, but they don't want the suits and the power and the guns. They're the Space Marines, but the Imperial Army, they're just humans with a helmet and a rifle. But they have some amazing tanks. And when you run them on a game table, you have about 3 times much more miniatures than, let's say, a Death Guard, because the humans are weaker. But man, they're fun to play. Those tanks, if you go online and you look at the tanks, I don't have any right now, but I just purchased 2 online. One from Etsy, it's a proxy, and the other one on eBay. I won a bid, so I'm probably gonna get those 2 within 2 weeks. I'm gonna make a review once I got them painted, and I'm gonna make a review of my Imperial Guard miniatures. I got a few painted. I got about 10 painted, but I don't want to show you right now. They're not ready. Those guys, they're not ready yet. So yeah, guys. I mean, thanks for watching this episode, and shout out to D. Ron from the dungeon, and Ryan from A Fool. Keep it weird, and I mean, it is what it is. And once again, thank you for watching this Cat Daddy podcast, episode 11. And just one thing, if you want to remember, you don't have to have all these games over here that I have all around me and the books. And I mean, this takes a bunch of years to collect it, and I'm proud of it, but I don't think I'm better than somebody else that just has like Monopoly. I'll glad have somebody come over and play Monopoly. I got like 10 Monopolies, but somebody come to my house and play Monopoly with their board, and I'll gladly play Monopoly. It's not how much games you got. It's not how much experience you got. It's how much the love of the game you got. Just remember that, guys. So until next time, stay safe, and remember, the Emperor protects. Later.